Once you've created your drawing and you've got it all laid out, as we can see here, so we've got our outside lines, we've got our hidden details, we've obviously got everything laid out in layers correctly because it's all color coded. The next thing we want to do, and the thing that we need to be able to do, is to communicate the size that these objects are and the relative distances between various features on those objects. So you can see here we've got a mechanical object, and it's got a few center lines in it, it's got a few distances between various items. We're going to have a dimension here for an arc, we're going to have a dimension here for a radius for a fillet, and we're going to have distances between holes as well. So all of these things are going to have to be communicated to whoever it is who's going to be building this object, and that's what we're going to be talking about now. If we quickly want to put dimensions onto a drawing, we can do so from up here. We've got our linear dimension, and if I left click on that, you'll see that we've got various different types of dimensions here, all of which are very, very useful. We've got straight linear dimensions, which can be used, if I just hold that on there, which can be used for just producing a straight dimension from one point to another. We have an angled dimension. As you can see here, we can use that for producing dimensions between one area and another, or one end of a line and another, which might be at an angle. So sort of the height between here and here. We've got an angular dimension, so that might be used for the angle between this line here and that line, just to show the angle that the taper comes out here. We have an arc length, which may well be used for this element on the side here to show how much it sort of bends in or bows in. We've also got radius dimensions and diameter dimensions, so obviously radius for this corner section and a diameter to show the whole diameter of this end flange here. So pretty much that's where we're going to go to get the basic dimensions from. As well, if I go over to my annotate tab here, you can see that not only have we got text, but we've also got dimensions as well. And again, we've got a whole section of other types of dimensions that we can use should we need to. We've got a few here that we're not going to talk about until we get into stage 2 and level 2. So I think for the moment what we're going to be doing is staying with the level 1 dimensions, which are going to be found here on the home tab of the ribbon bar. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to jump straight in, and we're going to start doing some linear dimensions. So we're going to concentrate in this area here, which is the top of the element. And I'm just going to click up here from my home tab in the ribbon bar. We've got the linear dimension. So I'm just going to click on linear, and I'll start by making sure that my object snap is switched on. And I'll go to the first inside line, and then I'll click the second inside line, so the corresponding side of that, and I'll just drag my dimension. And you can see it appearing in the viewport in front of me there. I'll right click and I'll repeat the dim line, and I'll do the same for the outside. There we go. And I'll right click and I'll repeat dim line. So I'm going to carry on doing this. Ooh, there we go. Until I've got as many dimensions as I'm happy with. I'm going to go for the end of that line. There we go. Now, one thing you'll notice there is these are all spaced in a sort of a slightly random way. So what I can do with this is I can go to my annotate, and one of the few elements that we are going to talk about up here is this one, which is the adjust space. So I'm going to select that, and I'm going to select all of my items here on my dimensions that I want to be auto spaced, and I'll press enter. And that brings up, you can see enter value or auto. Well, I'm quite happy for it to be auto, so I'll press enter again. And there you go, you see all of my dimensions are now spaced automatically and quite evenly. So apart from how easy it was to just press the linear line and go 1, 2, and then left click up to place my dimension, I can also, once I've got several in there, use from my annotate tab this very simple function of adjusting the space between them to be automatic. So that's quite a useful one to bear in mind. If I want to put a dimension on this section here, what I'll do, we'll come back to my tab because I quite like using this. And what we'll do is we'll use the aligned sort of angle. So I'll click on aligned and I'll pick that first point there and this point here. And you can see that that's actually aligned with the angle of this face here. So I'll place that here. And as I was saying, you can see the value 74 there. It's actually aligned with this edge. So it's sort of in the same orientation, which is actually quite good. It's quite useful. It sort of just shows that that dimension is actually relative to that side. Some people will have this flat out. Personally, I quite like it to be that way. But we will be talking about dimension styles in our next video. So if you hang on for that one, you'll see how you can change and move things around to suit. Of course, we also have a radial dimension, which can be accessed from here. There's our radius dimension here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on this arc and I'm going to drag out a little way, and as I left click you'll see that we've got an arrow saying radius 11 and the arrow pointing to this arc, and then from the arc to the arc center point as well. So again, we can change this if we want to using our dimension styles, but as I say again, we'll talk about that in the next video. You may well find that you've got sort of one arc like this sort of object here, and we just want to put a dimension in there, but we haven't really got enough space to sort of play around with one of these radius dimensions. So for something like that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a jogged dimension. So I'll select my arc here, and then what we're going to do next is specify the, as it says, you can see there on the screen, the center location. So we'll just click there. Then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to place the value. So I'll place the value maybe, I don't know, we'll say there. And then I get to place where the little zig, the jog is going to be. So I'll probably put that somewhere about there. So there you can see we've got one jogged dimension, and what it's doing is it's just saying, yeah, just in here there's a radius, and the radius is 64. So very nice, very simple, very easy to do. I'll repeat that one again actually. Let's see, I'll tell you what I'll do, I'll just delete that one. Just to make sure that we've got the point here, we'll go for jog dimension. I'll select the object. I will specify how far out that jog is going to come. We're then going to specify whereabouts we want our dimension to be. See, if you come down too far, you can actually sort of have it overrunning as well, which could be useful. So I'll put that there, and then I'll put the position of my jog line just here, so it matches up with the radius 67. And again, it's exactly the same there, radius 67, no difference than it was before. We may also want to specify the diameter of this hole. So for that, I'll also use my diameter dimension. And again, what this is going to do is it's going to ask me to select an object rather than two specific points. So life becomes a lot easier now because I can just left click on that object and I can pull my dimension out and left click again, and you can see here if I zoom in we've got the symbol for diameter and a value 9. So again, nice and simple, nice and easy to do. One other dimension that I might need to use is going to be the angle dimension. So you may well have the angle of this line from the horizontal. So we'll come down here and we'll pick our angle dimension. And I'll select the arc. There we go, I'll select the line, so that's the first line. And then the second line, which is going to be the angle that it's going to be from, is going to be this one. So that one's flat, and you can see if I keep my cursor this way, I'm getting 150 degrees because it's the arc between here and here. But if I move just inside, what we can actually say is, well, that's a 30-degree angle from the horizontal, and that's the one that I want to represent. So I'll left click, and you can see there we've got that 30-degree angle. If I wanted to show 150, I would have kept that dimension inside. Although the only problem with that is that my dimension would have been inside the object and it would have looked very cluttered. So that's not necessarily what I'm looking for here. One other thing to talk about, to sort of come back to some of the dimensions that we did here that were more auto-aligned, is what happens if I'm doing dimensions and they're going to be linear, but we want them to all sit sort of concurrent one from the other. So if I go and I say I want my linear dimension here, and I'll just start with one point there, and if I zoom in, I'll say we'll go to that point there, and I'll come out here. Okay, so that's my first dimension. My next dimension may well be from here and here, but I might want it to sit concurrent from my 18. So you can see there, because of my snaps, I was able to snap this position to the end point of that line. Want to see that one again? Well, okay, we'll do linear, making sure, of course, that my snaps are all set as we've got center. I'm going to go end point here as well, so I'll go from that end point and that end point, and I will snap to this end point, and you can see all very easy. Now, of course, what that doesn't give you is the distance from this center line to the end, to the bottom of the component. If you wanted that, you'd have to put that one in. So I would have to say from here to there is a value of 109, and of course if you add up 80, 11 and 18, that's what we get. I hope I haven't checked that yet. To create baseline dimensions, that is those that come from a center point, is, to be honest with you, just as easy as it would be to create continuous dimensions, or the type of dimension you saw me create there for an overall dimension. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say linear, and I'm going to go from my baseline here to that point and down, and then again I will say repeat dimension line, and that will be from that point to that point and then down, and then of course repeat again from there to there and down. And of course, if I want these to be stacked correctly, so I've got auto spacing, I'll go back to my annotate, I'll go to my adjust space, and I'll select these three objects. I'll press enter and then enter again, and you can see all of these baseline dimensions have now been auto spaced, as well as being placed correctly within our drawing. So you can see here, within just a few minutes, what we've done is we've started to dimension this object. There's obviously a few more bits and pieces we want to put in there, but to be honest with you, that's going to give you a good introduction as to how you create dimensions.